Hello students, how are you? Very good morning to all of you. Now we are in the 37th class of our course on physics 2, and now I am talking about the two very important components of your own computer as a device. The components are obviously the storage issue, how you store data in a system of in a computing system. And you see, we do not just store data in the hard disk of a computer. We also store our basic information in our metro ticket when you travel, because that takes care of the your journey when you travel by metro. In Kolkata metro, if you traveled your ATM card, now ATM cards are with chips, so that chip taking care of all your information. Earlier, at the back end of the ATM card, you will find a brown strip. So that was a magnetic strip that was taking care of the information stored about you. So now you see, if you remember old tape recorder at your home, there was a those brown tape was a magnetic tape that was used for storing data. Even the CDs, floppies, DVDs, Blu-ray DVDs, even now the printers, the modern printers also, they do have some memory. So there is a option of storing information in those devices, and that is our objective of discussion today. How or what are the variety of storage materials? Now I'll present in a very lucid way. I'll present to how the entire history of the storage devices has got changed. You see, initially we have been using magnets for storing data, but if I take a bar magnet and say my name is Shobboshachi, it is not going to be stored. So that means we need very special type of magnet for storing data and storing information. So that's why initially, in still now also in many cases, magnets are used for storing data, but not every magnet is good enough for storing data. So how do you store data? How do you store information? As a matter of fact, starting from the magnetic material to the latest solid state storage devices, okay, SSDs that are used here, which can keep lot of data. So how the journey was made? So that is the objective of this class. That journey we'll be making now. I will highlight starting from the magnetism to variety of storage materials in front of you. So the outcome of the class would be, after attending the class, you should be able to explain how you store data in a CD, how you store data in your computer hard disk. Okay, what is the latest method, or what is the pen, how you store data in your pen drive? There is a flash drive, USB device. How you do that? So all those basic physics will be illustrated in front of you in my class of this particular class, and you'll be able to interpret all these things after attending this class. So now let me get into the business. Let me talk very serious. So now, basically, how do you store data? That is the story. So let me get into those topics one by one. Please keep your all your concentration on this particular class. This is me, and you're aware of my contact. Okay, I have been sharing you for such a long time. So now, please look at these are the various categories of storage devices. Okay, now storage materials have got variety of category. The physical material that actually holds data is called the storage medium, as you know. And you have been using variety of storage devices. As I've been telling you, you have been using magnets for storing data for a lot of time. Still now we are using your brown strip at the back end of your ATM card is a magnetic storage, but that chip is a semiconductor storage. That is a smart storage device. Your old tape recorder brown tape was a magnetic storage element. Your metro ticket is a magnetic storage element. So still we use magnet for storing data. But the other kind of storage device is an optical storage device. So the CDs, DVDs, Blu-ray DVDs, they're all optical storage devices. Okay. Okay, so the primary types of magnetic storage devices that was used. So let me talk about magnetic storage devices a bit. Initially, we used diskettes. Diskette mean floppy disk. When I was a student, I utilized it. Now it is obsolete. But there, if you break a floppy, you can get a flat magnetic tape there. Okay, magnetic disk there. Okay, so this is diskette. So floppies are now obsolete. So they are the early days magnetic storage devices. Memory was very low, 1.44 MB also. So after the hard disk were there at that time also. Now in hard disk we are using mainly semiconductors for storing data. High capacity floppy disks came into business. Disk cartridge means CDs came into business, and disk cartridge is also different story. Sorry, CDs are optical storage devices, and magnetic tape is also there. So now these are the primary optical storage devices. Compact disc is there, CD-ROM, if you recall, digital video disc are there, that is called DVD, recordable CD, CDR, CD, rewritable CD, RW. All these things later on came in, and photo CDs were also there. Now you see, you are mostly using DVDs in many cases, but these things are also getting obsolete now. Now, magnetic materials are those materials in which the magnetization state is used for storing data, and such materials, when magnetized, create a magnetic field in the surrounding space. Okay, so initially I'll talk about the magnetic storage devices and the terms connected with the magnetic material is that. So one by one I shall take up the matter. First I will highlight the magnetic storage issues. After that I will move into the optical storage issues. Now, magnetism is a topic which is very close to the heart of many of us. So it deals with variety of topic. The basic concept of magnetic force, or that is magnetic force, means magnetic field. Force on an unit not pole is actually called there. If you think in terms of pole, it is called the magnetic field intensity. Magnetic flux density means number. You see, if you have got a magnet, the line of force will move from north pole to the south pole. If you use a pole theory, the amount of lines of force passing coming out into is called magnetic flux. Magnetic flux per unit area, magnetic flux density. Magnetic field strength is the magnetic field intensity H. Relative permeability is the concept. Now you see, permeability takes care of the issue how well magnetic line of force can penetrate a medium. Absolute permeability is connected with the free space. Okay, that is, if you put a magnetic medium, okay, the way magnetic line of force will pass through. If you put a glass or paper, they are called diamagnetic medium. Okay, in a similar way magnetic line of force cannot pass through. So this is a relative issue. That's why the term permeability is relative quantity, and it is always defined with respect to the ideal case, that is magnetic line of force passing through air. Okay, magnetic resonance is that the ability of storing magnetism, even if you don't apply any external magnetic field. How it comes, we'll get into the discussion. Retentivity, okay, is a connected topic about magnetic resonance. Curie temperature is a temperature at which ferromagnetism is lost, and hysteresis loop is actually the key of discussing about the variety of magnetic materials. Okay. Now these are the various classifications of magnetic materials. Some of them are called diamagnet, which are almost non-magnetic material. You can never magnetize them. Paramagnet, there is a feeble magnetism will be developed if you try to make them magnet. Ferromagnet is easily magnetized, and in the ferromagnet also two categories are there. Some of them are called soft magnet, which are used for designing electromagnet, etc., and hard magnets are there for using making the permanent magnet. For permanent data storage purpose, you see, I am introducing a concept called magnetization. Magnetization means, you see, initially over this region I have got a system of atoms, I should say. Here you see, these are basically spins. So magnetism is coming because of the electron spin. Okay, you see, they are all randomly oriented. If this is in this direction, this is in some other direction, this is in some other direction, and random orientation means there must be some magnet electron with the, okay. Okay, these are all randomly oriented, even structure. Okay, where you have got large number of atoms. Okay, here the spin magnetic moment may be like in this direction. Here, in some of the materials, it may be just opposite to this one. So net magnetization is zero. So what you have to do, if you have to magnetize it, that means if you have to keep a regular arrangement of the spins, so you want them, all of them should have a definite array. All of them should be maybe arranged in a definite, in a regular array. Definite arrangement will be there. So how do you do this? Okay, how do you do that? You have to twist this magnetic, twist these directions into this direction in favor of the uh, like this. All of them should be following this path. So along this direction, actually you have to apply a external magnetic field. Okay, apply once external magnetic field. So what external magnetic field will do, they will exert some forces on this individual magnetic small magnets, I should say. So some of them will be rotated in favor of the magnetism. This process is called magnetization. You see, a system with no magnetization, okay, it was non-magnet completely. So now, because of the field, external magnetic field, they are now some of them are actually getting oriented. Crores of some magnetic dipoles are there. Dipole means two poles are there, north and south. Okay, the direction of the magnetic dipole moment goes from the north pole to the south pole, and you basically you see they're all arranged in the randomly initially. So what you are doing, you are keeping some of them in the direction of the field. So this process will, what you will do, a net magnetism will be developed. Okay, some sort of magnetism will be developed in the system. So this is called the process of magnetization. And the idea is that if you increase the strength of the magnetic field, if you put a higher value of the magnetic field, then more and more small magnets oriented in favor of the field. So this is going to grow. So that the relationship between the magnetization M, okay, yes, hmm? বলো বলো ড্রয়িং খাতা নেবি দেখা যাচ্ছে ওই যে ওখানে আছে So idea is that if if you apply a magnetic field of strength say 8, okay, you are trying to, the relationship, the amount of magnetization you are creating, that is actually proportional to the external magnetic field say H, magnetic field intensity H. Now to remove the sign of proportionality, we may put bring in a constant say chi. So this becomes chi H. Okay, this becomes chi H. হ্যাঁ কি বলছো বলো আমি তো ফোনটা দিয়ে কথা বলছি বাবা মার ফোনটা নাও একটুখানি দাঁড়াও আমি রেকর্ড করছি বাবা একটু So idea is that you have got M is equal to chi H. Okay, chi is the is called susceptibility. That is it talks about amount of magnetization you are creating in the system due to the application of unit magnetic field. Okay, so if it is a good magnetic material, then for the same unit of magnetic field, suppose you are using 1 Henry of the magnetic field, the amount of magnetization will be created for the material, for some of the material which you can easily magnetize, this will actually automatically, this will be high. Okay, the chi will be high because more magnetization will be there. But some of the magnetization will never will be having, if you apply say 1 Henry of the magnetic field or 1 Gauss of the magnetic field, please, if you think in terms of SI unit, 1 Gauss of the magnetic field, what would happen? Now this is the value of the chi, the amount of magnetization developed much lesser. Okay, so it depends on the material, and there are some material like glass, wood, paper, you can never magnetize them. Okay, so basically whatever be the magnetic field you apply, the chi it will never be magnetized. So entire inner magnetic energy is lost. So that's why for them the susceptibility is better. Now depending on the value of the susceptibility, materials are actually classified. So how do you classify? The same thing is coming. Okay, this I told you chi is equal to M by H. You see, look at the animation. You see this magnetic field is this applied magnetic field is changing. Okay, please see here, look at this part of the screen. Okay, you see magnetic field strength is increasing. Okay, it is now going into the opposite direction, so they are oriented also in the opposite direction. So somewhere there is a proportionalization. So now you see, now it is, you see, they are oriented, they are just this is the direction of the magnetic field, and they're just following the direction. Okay, you see, if you now keep it in the other direction, they are following the other direction. Please see, please try to realize it. Okay, now you see they are all are oriented in favor of this direction. If you reverse it, you see they are also reversing the direction. So the relationship between the amount of magnetization you are making, the amount of magnetization you are doing, is proportional to the applied magnetic field. Now that is what I told you, to remove the sign of proportionality, and you will get this wonderful equation: m is equal to chi h. Okay, m is equal to chi h. M is equal to chi h is the equation. Okay, this gives you m is equal to chi h. And chi is the susceptibility. This is the susceptibility. This talks about the amount of magnetization produced by unit magnetic field. Now, depending on the values of chi, magnetic materials are actually classified. The material for whom you can never make magnetized. Okay, chi is equal to m by h, the formula. Even whatever be the magnetic field you apply, you cannot magnetize it. So for those materials, chi is going to be negative. Whatever be the magnetic material, whatever be the magnetic field you apply, you see chi is going to be negative for those materials. So materials with negative chi negative and very low, it is of the order of minus 10 to the power minus 7. So you can never make it magnetized. Okay, this type of materials are called diamagnetic material. Susceptibility is negative. So what happens if you put those material in a magnetic field, they actually push the magnetic line of forces out of it. Okay, it will not allow it to get into it. The example of these materials are bismuth, silver, copper, hydrogen. The other kind of material, if you look at the formula of susceptibility, chi is equal to m by h. Now, if you apply magnetic fields, even if strong magnetic field, it will be slightly magnetized. So susceptibility here, it will be there, susceptibility will be positive. So some magnetization will be there, but its magnitude of the magnetization will be very low. It will be of the order of 10 to the power minus 7. So, okay, so very feeble magnetism will be there. So only some amount of line of forces are actually entering into the medium. Only some of them. You need a very strong magnetic field to orient all these things. Okay, they're all randomly oriented. Even if you apply external magnetic field, what would happen? So only some of them will be oriented in favor of the field. Only few of them. So that's why this is very low. So aluminium, platinum, calcium, oxygen are the example of paramagnetic substance. But the quantity which shows very good magnetic behavior is the ferromagnetic material. Ferromagnetic material is that they are easily magnetized. The ratio of susceptibility is m by h. Okay, so the idea is that if you apply magnetic field, if you apply h there, if you apply magnetic field, so what would happen? Susceptibility will grow. Okay, if you apply magnetic field, m, okay, okay, even for a very small feeble very strong small amount of magnetic field also, okay, lot of magnetization there. Okay, so susceptibility is going to be very high. Chi is very high, extremely high, extremely large. It is positive. So you make it magnetize. Susceptibility is the ability of magnetizing a substance, and the good news is that here it is of the order of 10 to the power plus 7. So it is extremely well magnetized. So the susceptibility is very high. And obviously they will allow magnetic line of force. You see, they are actually inside the material. Okay, they will allow magnetic line of force to pass through it. And the idea is that if you apply any magnetic field, suppose you apply any external magnetic field in this direction, almost everybody will be oriented in favor of the magnetic field. Okay, so that is the ferromagnetic material. Now ferromagnetic materials, this relationship, this m is equal to chi h. If you plot it, you see I have told you the relationship is proportional. So initially it is expected that it will follow this graph. Okay, that if I increase magnetic field, it will go up, and if I withdraw magnetic field, magnetization will be gone. But the observation with the ferromagnetic substance is that even if you, now you see, if you reach here, look at the picture, the idea is that you are increasing the magnetic field, and you see magnetization is growing. It is called BH2. Even you can put magnesium also there. Magnetization M also here in this direction. Okay, it will be ultimately fully magnetized. All the magnets are small magnetic materials. So the idea is this much. Okay, everybody, all of them, all these, okay, all of them are now oriented in the core of the field. If that is the case, then what will happen? You will reach to the saturation. Now from saturation, if you now revise it, if you move in the opposite direction, so that suppose you are reducing the magnetic field, external magnetic field. So the point is that it is not going to follow this graph. It is not going to follow this path. Rather, it will follow this path. So what is the message? Message is that even if you do not keep any magnetic field from external sources, it will keep some magnetism within it that is called remnant magnetism. And this property is called retentivity. Okay, that means you need an opposite magnetic field to demagnetize it. This field is called HC. This is called the coercive field. Okay, you need an reverse field to completely demagnetize the substance. This is called a coercive field. And obviously you can move in the saturation in the negative direction also. Okay, negative side also you can move into the saturation, and you can do the opposite. If you get back to the zeros again some remnant magnetism will be there. So basically total remnant magnetism is the summation of these two. Okay, this is the net remnant magnetism. Okay, this is the net remnant magnetism of the system. So if it is high, that means it can store magnetism for a lot of time. And similarly, you have to apply an opposite field to get into the zero magnetization. So this much of length is called coercive field. Okay, because it is including the two things. Okay, total coercive field is this much. That is a total magnetic field you need to demagnetize the substance. And opposite is true. This is called the saturation magnetic field. This is the top here at the positive side, and this is the bottom. This total the value is the net saturation magnetism. Now depending on what is the magnitude of the coercivity, what is the magnitude of the remnant magnetism, what is the magnitude of saturation, the ferromagnetic materials are actually classified. You see the point I raised is mentioned here. Saturation is there, B versus H, or magnetization versus H. Okay, same plot will be there. So you can reach saturation. This is the retentivity, coercivity. This is the net retentivity value. Okay, this is the total retentivity of the system. This is the magnitude. Net coercivity of the system is this much. This much of length is the net coercivity. Net saturation magnetism is this much. Okay, this is the net saturation magnetism of the system. The fact is that depending on the magnitude of these three, actually magnetic materials are classified. You see, this blue line indicates the usual ferromagnetic material. I just explained. There is a super paramagnetic materials are there. Okay, which are just below the. You can see for them there is no hysteresis loop is there. But you see, there is a super paramagnetic material I have written there, whose values of this saturation magnetism is higher, whose okay, on the either side. This is the main difference between this green line is the normal para and this violet line is the super para. But the actual beauty is the ferromagnetic material is the hysteresis loop tracing. Okay. Now, the value is that depending on the nature of the hysteresis loop, you define the material. Some of the materials like cobalt, nickel, soft iron, okay, they are called the soft materials. Okay, permalloy, nickel iron alloy actually. So they're called soft material. You see you see main point is that for this soft material, you see they have got a low coercive field. Sorry, you see for this type of material, if you look here, the retentivity is much lesser. And their coercive field is also much lesser. Okay, coercivity is also very low. It's a thin bird. Okay, you see, retentivity and coercivity both are low. So that if I call retentivity as ER, okay, it is very low. This is very low, the retentivity, and the coercivity, if I call it HC, This is also very, very low. That means you need very small magnetization to demagnetize it completely. And its to memory is very short. Okay, it cannot store too much of data. But for the hard magnet, you can see it's very it's fat and thick. You see, for this material, this is the remnant magnetism. It is extremely high. Okay, very high retentivity. It can store data. That means for a longer time, and you need lot of magnetic field to demagnetize it. That means you are losing the data. To lose the data, you need lot of magnetic field. So these type of materials are called permanent magnet, used for the production of permanent magnets, or they are hard to magnetize, hard to demagnetize, because their saturation magnetism is also on the higher side. If you compare here using the saturation getting here, and you need lot of magnetic field to get it to saturation. So these are called Hall magnetic material, cobalt, platinum. These are some of the material mixtures that the alloys are there. Okay, Nibod, NDFEB, FEPP. Okay, all these are the materials of the hard magnetic materials. So they are mainly used for the production of permanent magnet, and soft magnetic materials are used for the electromagnet production, transformer, biomedical applications are there. And if you have to store data forever, you should use the ones presented second, that is the permanent magnetic material. And for read-write devices, soft materials will be is their good choice. You see, again I get into the permanent magnetic materials a bit again. So initial high coercivity, high retentivity, high saturation flux density. Okay, it can be easily magnetized. It cannot be easily magnetized because you need a lot of magnetic field and hysteresis loop. This total area covered is the amount of magnetic energy you are losing. Obviously, you lose a lot of energy. Okay, so these are used for the production of the permanent magnet. So again, you see the loop trace being traced there. You see soft and hard are soft means low retentivity, or low demagnetizing field. Main problem is that you see demagnetizing field is much lesser. Okay, the coercivity is lesser, and hard means lot of coercivity is very high. Okay, on the right side, it depends on the, if you're using electromagnet, it depends on the signal frequency also. Okay, when you're designing a transformer, these are very important. Soft materials are used for the production material. For the soft magnetic materials are used for designing transformer. Okay. Again, some more beautiful pictures are there. Okay, red one. Here I am giving you another lesson. The ferromagnetic and antiferromagnetic. Ferromagnetic means you see those red and blues are actually spin direction, the direction of the electron spin. Okay, you'll come to know this entire magnetism is dictated by the spin of the electron. Okay, so from ferromagnetic to antiferromagnetic configuration, you can see how the hysteresis loop is getting changed. Okay. And if they're unequal, okay, that is called very magnetic material also. Beautiful animation, okay, being shown there on the screen. This part of the story, all are in the same direction. This is ferro, and this is the, and you see when they are equal, that is antiferro, and when they are equal and opposite, they are antiferro, and when they are equal opposite, but sorry, they are opposite but unequal, that is a ferromagnetic configuration. Because any ferromagnetism has got two classification. Okay, ferro, okay, antiferro, and the ferromagnetic configuration. Ferro means this configuration. Okay, all of them are in the same magnitude, same direction. Now the here antiferromagnetic and ferromagnetic are actually modifying. Okay, you see if they're unequal of an opposite, that is ferri, and ferro means basically, antiferro means completely equal and opposite. Okay, so this is the way this group varies. So now the origin of magnetism is because of electron spin. Mainly spin has got two types of motion. One is the orbital motion. You know, if electron is moving, it's a charge moving, so current will be there, and any moving current element produces magnetic field. So orbital motion is expected to produce magnetic field. Apart from that, every electron do some spin motion also about its own axis. So that spin motion means another current element is involved, so another magnetic field is there. Now electron can have two types of spin motion, two types of magnetic moment. Okay, that is plus half h cut and minus half h cut. So those two are actually determining the magnetic state of the material. Okay, plus half h cut is called upspin state of the electron. So spin stands for the magnetic of the magnetic state of the electron, therefore, and minus half h cut or refers to the downspin state of the electron. So spin motion, okay, can result in a magnetic field because if a charge moves, you will get a current. Now that current, okay, mm, element can produce two types of magnetic field because of the spin motion. One is the magnetic field with magnetic moment half h cut, another is a magnetic field with magnetic moment minus half h cut, which are called upspin and downspin. On the screen, okay, this is the uh, upspin configuration. This is actually how h cut is a net magnetic moment and minus half h cut is a net magnetic moment in this case. Okay, this is the upspin configuration and this is the downspin configuration. Okay, you can see here on the screen. Okay, up and down spin configurations are shown there. Okay. Now, if we enter story, ferro means all the electrons spin are in the same direction. Antiferro means they are equal and opposite. Ferri means opposite but unequal. And paramagnetic is a different story. Okay, field magnetism will be there in that case. Okay, and you can see the way the B versus H loop. Okay, this is actually B is equal to mu H. Okay, the flux density is changing. If you stress the curve, it will be like this much. Okay, diamagnetic, it is below because you see it's entire loss. You can never magnetize it. Paramagnetism is very low. Ferromagnetism is here, and sorry, ferri is here, and this is the ferro, which is the best of the lot. Okay, as a magnetic material. So now these characteristics, okay, are being employed for storing data. So soft magnetic material, as I mentioned, okay, this type of materials have got very low coercive field. Okay, coercive force is very low, hysteresis loop is very narrow. Okay, so these are the materials we just discussed now, and just to repeat it, the hard magnetic materials, all these things are very high value. Cobalt steel, stainless steel, there is chromium steel. Okay, they are all the examples of the hard magnetic materials. Okay, so if you have to make a ferromagnetic materials are used in magnetic recording devices. Okay, so that because it has got two classes. If you have to make this data for permanent purpose, you use hard magnet, and for read write purpose, if you have to read and write data, then you use the soft magnetic material. Okay.